Yeah, we're gonna pick it up from where we left off last time. We're gonna go on the Gemara and Taanis over here in Daf Gimel. There's the top line. Tanya Rabbi Nosson Oime B'Kodesh Aseich Neseich Shechar LaHashem. Pasuk says that talking about libations. You pour the libations over there. B'Shnei Nisuch Makasim Medaber, referring to two libations. Echad Nisuch Hamayim V'Echad Nisuch Hayayin. One is talking about the libation for water, and one is talking about for wine. Why don't you just say both are referring to wine? No. Oh, hasech, hesech, or nesech, nesech. If that would be so, then you should just say hasech, hasech, or nesech, nesech. My hasech, nesech. Why do you say hasech, nesech? Shema mino, chad demai, chad dechamra. We can infer from here that one is referring to water, the other is referring to wine. Lahad Tanan, rather that which the Mishnah says in Maseches Sukkah and Daf Mem Beis Nisucha Mayim Kol Zayin, that the libations for the water are 7 days. Mani, who is that going like? Rabbi Yeshua, if it's going like Rabbi Yeshua, which was the second opinion in the Brisa, quoted on Beis Amar Beis next to Tosfos, the Bar Maskil, the Amar, Rabbi Yeshua said, Mishas Hanachaso, from when you place the Dalin Minim down, when you place the Lulav Esrog Hadasim and Aravos down, aka according to Rashi, the seventh day of Sukkot, there's a whole Maharanch Mirunchburg on there also. And if it's Rabbi, see over there, if it's Rabbi Yeshua, Neimachadyo, must then it'll only be 1 day. Only 1 day left because he holds it's the seventh day. It's the ends, and you have 1 day after. You Rabbi Akiva, if it's Rabbi Akiva, who is quoted in the Brisa as opinion number 5, few lines up from Tosos Dibar Maskal Mayim over there on Beis and Beis, who says that it's B'Shisha B'Chagu Maskir. It's going to be on the sixth day of Sukkot. You're going to mention Mashiach Rachem Negeshem Treyomis. Then you have 2 days after the sixth day. Rabbi Yehuda Ben Beseiro. If it's going to be Rabbi Yehuda Ben Beseiro, who's right on top of Rabbi Akiva's opinion over there on Beis and Beis, who said that it was on the second day of Sukkot. Shisayomi. So then it would be 6 days. Well, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, he really, I tell you, it's Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. If you're like Rabbi Yehuda, but he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. The Masnisin of the Mishnah, the Tan, because it says in the Mishnah, in Sukkah Memches, Rabbi Yehuda Oimer, Belog, Hayemanase Kol Shmona. In Log, excuse me, they would do the libations for 8 days. Umafik Rishon, Uma'ayol Shmini, and he takes out the first day, and he brings in the eighth day instead. AK, it's going to be a total of 7 days. Why not the first day? Why is it no good? Why does he take it out? Because when it was hinted, the water, it's on the second day. Like we saw the end of last time. Mem Yud Mem, that whole drush over there. The whole idea, that was the second day. On the bottom of Beis and Beis. Shmini Nami, Kira Mizamayim B'Shviyud Mizi. 8th day also. When it's alluding to water, it happened on the seventh day. So why are you including the 8th day? Ella Rabbi Yeshua, rather it's Rabbi Yeshua. It's Rabbi Yeshua who said when you place down the dalamin, however, the fact that the libation of the water is for 7 days, that is halacha l'Moshe Sinai. That's an oral tradition that we have. Tamar Rabbi Ami, Yom Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Nechunya, because Rabbi Ami said in Rabbi Yochanan the name of Rabbi Nechunya, Ish bekas beis choyroson. Esther Natios, that's where he was from. Esther Natios, the ten saplings, plants, new trees, rather. Arava, the aravos. V'nisach hamayim, the libations of the water. Halach l'mosh misim. The common denominator is that they are all the libations. That they are all, excuse me, halach l'mosh misim. They are oral Torah that we have, that we know. Esther Natios, Rashi explains that they're scattered. They're scattered throughout a base worth, so that's 50 amos by 50 amos. So the idea is you could still plow that. You could work the land even on the eve of Shvius, even though that other fields in Chorshon Lefnei Shvius Lamed Yom. Rashi says Afagav the Shar Sadus in Chorshon Lefnei Lamed Yom. Even though there's something called Tosefes Shvius, you're not allowed to work the land on the Shemitah year during Shvius, and there's also something called Tosefes Shvius, which means 30 days before that you're not allowed to as well. Over here, you're allowed to. If you're not going to work it, then it will get messed up. So since you're allowed to work it with these young trees, so then so too you're allowed to work it with any trees over there in that area of the radius of 50 amos for 50 amos, roughly 100 feet by 100 feet. Nisuch HaMayim is the Nisuch HaMayim, and the Arava is on Sukkot when they would use the Arava. They would surround the Mizbeach. Tosfos over here says, Shemakif Nes Mizbeach. Next Gemara says, Rabbi Hudon Mishum Rabbi Yeshua Moed V'fnei Ativ Yom Tov Rachman Shel Chag Achron Maskir Bishun Maskir Yom Tov Bishun Shel Pesach Rishon Maskir Achrin Maskir. There's a quote from the Mishnah. According to Rabbi Yehuda, in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, someone who's going to be chazan on the last day of Yom Tov. So then the person who's going to daven Musaf is going to mention Mashiach Baruch Hamid Geshem. However, the first person will not mention Mashiach Baruch Hamid Geshem. On the first day of Yom Tov of Pesach, the first person, aka Shachris, is going to mention Mashiach Baruch Hamid Geshem. However, the person who's going to daven Musaf is not going to mention it. Hi, Rabbi Yeshua. Which Rabbi Yeshua are we talking about? Elam, Rabbi Yeshua. But this reason, if you're referring to Rabbi Yeshua in the Mishnah, Amar b'Yom Tov Achron Shel Chag Hu Maskir. What do you mean? He said on the last day of Yom Tov, you would mention it, aka the Shachris would mention it, right? So how could you reconcile that? That wouldn't. It can't be that it's Rabbi Yeshua over here because over here he said that only the Musaf is going to mention it. Over there, it seems like it's Shachris Rabbi Yeshua Debrai. So rather, we have to say that it's referring to Rabbi Yeshua in the Brai. So Ha'amar Mishasa Nachaso, but he says it's from when you place it down, like as Rashi explains on the seventh day. And over here, it's gonna we're when it says the last day, we're referring to the eighth day. Vesu, and furthermore, Haditanya Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Bim B'Sidra Milfnei Hativ B'Yom Tov Ra'achron Shaluchag Achron Masker. Furthermore, you said the Chazan. On the last day of Yontif, the Musaf is going to mention it. Hi, Bain Basira. Which Bain Basira are we talking about over here? Which Bain Basira are we talking about? You know, if you're going to say Rabbi Yehuda Bain Basira, Rabbi Yehuda Bain Basira, if you're going to say it's him, Amr Bashin B'Chago Maskir, he said that on the second day of Sukkot, you're going to mention it, so it can't be. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, there's a gears to change of the Bach over here. Knows Aleph Travayu, both of them. Tia Travai, both of them, Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseir, are going to go with Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseir. Dim Zakari Lebishmei, Dim Zakari Lebishmei Abba. Sometimes it's called in his name, sometimes it's going to be called in his father's name. It depends if it was before his smicha, before he was ordained as a rabbi or not. In other words, the final answer over here, it's not going to be like Rabbi Yeshua. Rashi speaks out. You asked if it was Rabbi Yeshua, which ben Meseir was it? It's Rabbi Yeshua ben Meseir. When Rabbi Yehuda said earlier in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, and then he went and he said, Bein Beseder is both Rabbi Yeshua, Bein Beseder. It's not a question. Sometimes called in his name, Bein Beseder, and sometimes it's called in his name, just Rabbi Yeshua. Depends if you had the smicha or not. If it was before he was ordained, he was called after the name of his father. But after he was ordained, it was his own name. The Gemara continues. Tano, we have a brayse betala beruchos lo chayiv u'chochamim lahaskir. When it comes to do and win, the rabbis did not obligate a person to mention it. V'yim ba lahaskir mafkir. However, if you're going to come to mention it, you could mention it. My time, what's the reason I'm reaching lefein she'nozarn? Because they did not stop. V'tal mina alon deloy metzar. How do we know the do never stops? Sixth of the pasuk says by Eliyahu. Take a look at the safe verse of Mikros for more details in the back. V'yim Eliyahu tishbi Eliyahu, who was among Mitoish Gilad, the settlers of Gilad. He was from Tishbe. He told he told Achav Chai Hashem, by the life of Hashem, Elokei Yisrael, the God of Israel, Asher Amadati Lefanov, that I'm standing in front of him. Im Yiyeh Hashanah Ma'elu Talumater. If there's not going to be any rain or dew during these days, Kim Lufi Devaro. There's not going to be any rain or dew except according to my word. Except in the pasuk says after. Pasuk says later. The next pasuk that it was in a lot of days, and Hashem spoke with Eliyahu in the third year, saying, Leich hera el achav, go show achav. Ve'etna matar al pnei adam. I'm going to put rain on the ground. Batal loka amarle. However, when it comes to the dew, he didn't mention that. He didn't mention that I'm going to put the dew on the ground. My time, what's the reason? Mishum dlama etzar, because the dew never stops. That's the idea. The dew never stops. So we see that the dew and the wind never stops over here. In other words, the Chachamim didn't obligate us to say Mashiach and read Hatal. Tosfos over here speaks out that why does he call Eliyahu a Tishbi? Eliyahu a Tishbi, right? Why? Because he was from Gilad. They were all killed in the civil war that happened with Yavesh Gilad for the story of Pilagish at the end of Sefer Shoftim. Only a few people who remained from the Tishbi area, from the Gilad, in Yabesh Gilad. So you're trying to show he's from the remnants of it. Eliyahu at Tishbi. Next Amud. Achim Acher D'Lo Me'etzer Eliyahu. Since it never stops, then why did Eliyahu have to make a swear? This is what he was telling him. Afilu tal debracha nami lo asi. Even do a blessing will not come. Ilahadri letal debracha. Why not? Mishum. Why don't you bring a do a blessing? Mishum de lo minkra milso, because it wouldn't be recognizable. That's why he didn't bring it. Mara continues, Ruchos minal d'Ramanetzar, how do you know that the winds never stop? Remember Yeshua ben Levi, Damar the Pasuk says, Ki barba Ruchos Shemayim Pizarti Yitzchim Mashem, I scattered you in the four corners of the world, my Kamar Lahu. What is he telling them? Ilem Hachi Kamar Lahu. If you want to say that this is what the prophet Zechariah is telling them, excuse me, that this is what Hashem is telling them through the prophet HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, this is what Hashem is telling the Jews. Tebadri Naichu Ba'arba Ruchi Dalma, I scattered you through the four corners of the world. Yachi, if that's okay, arba, like four, but arba by should have said with four. Al-Hachi Kamar, rather, this is what he's telling them. Kishem Shev Shar Olam Ruchus Kachi Shar Olam Yisrael. Just like the world, it's impossible to exist without winds, so too it's impossible for the world to exist without Jews. Rashi over here relates that the world would only endures because of the Jews. Sheina Olam is Kayemes Ela B'Shvil Yisrael. The world only exists because of Jews. Vachi Kamar Kra. Kibidal Ruchus Shemayim B'Shart Yetchem, etc. Imo Barita Yomam Chuchos B'Shemayim Aretz Losamti. Marsha on this line explains. Marsha actually in Avodah Zarah and Daf Yud that were scattered throughout the worlds, and then we'll be able to get Torah to continue to exist. In the Ruach Chaim and Perek Vav Mishnah Aleph or Chaim of Lashon explains that this is why there has to be Torah at any given moment. If there isn't Torah at any given moment, then the world would cease to exist. This is why in Volozhin they set up different times where people are going to be learning constantly, so that there's learning 24/7. This is also explained. Chafetz Chaim discusses why there are different time zones as well. There are different time zones so that people are always constantly learning. They would set up different shifts. That's the idea about the different time zones. Beautiful idea over here. There's a story in the Sichas Bavodas Hashem on page Kofches that one time that Reb Nachum Zev Mibiala was the only person learning in the entire world, and he kept the entire world going just for a couple of moments, and because of that, he merited an incredible son, aka the Avnei Nezer. Got to be constant learning. Mark continues, Amir Rabbi Chanina, Hilkoch, therefore, Biyamoso Chama in the summertime. Amar Mashiv Ruach, Machzirna. So if you just said Mashiv Ruach, you would not go back. Amar Rina Geshem, Machzirna. So if you said Marina Geshem, you have to go back. Biyamoso Geshem, in the winter time. Lo Amar Mashiv Ruach, Machzirna. So if you do not say Mashiv Ruach, you would not go back. However, Lo Amar Rina Geshem, Machzirna. So if you would not say Marina Geshem, you would need to go back. Below the Elo, not only that, Afilu Amar, even if you say, Ma'avir haruach u'mafazer hatalin machzirna. So if you say the person who's going to take away the winds and scatter the dew, you would not go back. Tano, we have a brayso. When it comes to the clouds and the wind, the rabbis did not obligate you to mention it. However, if you're going to come to mention it, then you should. My time. What's the reasoning? Mishum de etzar, because it doesn't stop. V'lo etzar, and it doesn't stop. V'hatan Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef says, what do you mean? It's an explicit pasuk. V'atzar se'shamayim. So it says it's going to stop. Mina avim mina ruchos. It's referring to clouds and winds. Ata omer mina avim mina ruchos. So you know what mean hamat. Are you saying that this is referring to from the clouds or from the winds, or is this only referring to the rain? Kishomer, one of the pasuk says, "Well, yeah, mata. There's not going to be any rain. Harimata amr." So what do you see? It's rain. So what am I going to do with the pasuk? It says I'm going to stop the skies. Mina avim mina ruchos. It must be from the clouds and the wins. So now we have contradiction. We have a we have a contradiction. We have a question: are the winds going to stop? Or are they not? And similarly, are the clouds going to stop or not? Which one is it? The Gemara it's no kasha. Of ma'avim lo kasha ho bechir fi ha beifili. When it comes to the clouds, no question. It depends if it's going to be the early clouds or the later clouds. Rashi explains in Dibra Maskell Cherfi, the earlier oven Bechirus Habos of Neamater Inam service. If you have clouds that are coming before the rain comes, those ones happen. However, the clouds that come after the rain, so those could stop. If you can include so those could already stop. So since they can all stop, therefore, there's no obligation to mention them. The Gemara says, the winds aren't a question either. It depends if it's a common wind or an uncommon wind. If it's going to be already an uncommon wind, so then that would stop. Uncommon wind. Ksiv v'atzar, Rashi says. And still, you're not obligated to mention it. Mar then says, Ruach she'ena mitsuya. There's different gears. Says, chazya or nami hamibaye lebeidari. But the uncommon winds are already used for winnowing. And therefore you should be obligated to mention it, like Rashi says. So Gemara says, Efshar bin Nefus. So it's possible with sieves. Cusis even said, Mar zez or sifter. Tani avim arucho shniyos lamater. The clouds and the winds are secondary to rain, which means Rashi explains it says if that they are as effective as rain itself. Hey Chidami, what's the case? Marula says V'itmei Rabbi Yehuda de Basar Mitra. Some say it's Rebbe or Rav Yehuda. This is referring to when it comes after rain. That's what Rashi speaks out. So it's going to be good over there. The main word you mean to tell me, do you see here that it's going to be good for Haksiv? The pasuk says Yisrael Hashem es amar Torah Artzecha avak v'afar. If Hashem's going to give the rain over there, then your land is going to become dusty and dirty. Ula v'itmei Rav Yehuda, and Ula says some say it's Rav Yehuda. Zika the Batar Mitzvah, we're referring to rain, wind, excuse me, after rain. So that's not going to be good. Rashi says that the wind is going to now cause a lot of dust to come up after the rain, and it's going to get attached to the produce. It's not going to be good. Depends if it's coming down gently or forcefully. If it's gently, so then it's going to be a good thing. Kishiyar ben Rachas, Rashi said in that's not going to bring up all the dust when it comes down gently. However, when it's going to come up with strength, that's going to bring a lot of dust up. That's not going to be good. It depends if the dust is going to come up or not. That would be the difference between the two. Some say that's actually a second answer. Remember, Yehuda Zikut about the Mitra Kemitra. Wind after rain is considered like rain itself. It's very effective. Even about their Mitra Kemitra, also cloud after rain, it's considered like rain. Shimshit about their Mitra Kishtei Mitra Limu Mai. The sun that comes after the rain is like two rains. What's that coming to exclude? The Me'ute, it's coming to exclude Gili, flashes of light, the Layli of the night, Vishimsha Debene Karche, and the sun that are between ball patches. Amarava, Mali, Talga, Laturi. The snow is going to be good for the mountains. Kichamisha Mitri La'ara, like five rains for the land. Shnemar, the pasuk says, Kilishal Yomahu Hu Eretz V'Geshem. That's one, V'Geshem. The snow is going to say the land V'Geshem and the snow. Matar. That's rain V'Geshem. That's a third. So you have two Geshems and Matar. And then Matros. So it says two over there because it's plural. So that's how you get to five, the number five. Mitros. Tosfos over here in the long one discusses if you skipped and if you go back and what the story is and putting it in Shema Kolenu and something very interesting that within 30 days of when you change from going to Mashiv Rochin and Geshem or the other way, you assume that you did what you've been doing up until then. That's what this long Tosfos talks about, and then inserting things in Shema Kolenu. Okay, that is Dav Gimel in the books. See you next time.